I would love to really build the dance community in the area that I grew up. That's is the focus. I still keep the traditional dance, but I teach it in a different way, which is it's not only to do the movement, only to understand the traditional dance movement. But after that, I teach the abstract motion, which I call abstract motion, which is
Abstract motion.
so to use the traditional dance as the buzz to go to things that are more complex and are more creative, like more different, which is like taking part small stuff from traditional dance to something more like a complex, like or more like improvisation or like a dance composition.
All right, welcome everyone. This is the Embodied Dialogue podcast, and my name is Seth Dellinger, and I'm really happy to have Vasco Mirine with me here today. So Vasco is a dancer. He's currently in Denmark, but he's originally from Mozambique. And the reason I reached out and wanted to talk to him today was to learn more about a project that he is putting together to bring contemporary dance. And as I understand it, dance is a vehicle for bringing contemporary ideas of many kinds to rural areas of Mozambique. And there's a lot more to say about it than that, but that's just the basic idea. And so welcome, Vasco.
Thank you.
Yeah. And could you just tell us in more detail what this project is all about? And
yeah, the project it's a project that I haven't started with the group. Like sometimes, like I did it myself, like as a solo project, which is like doing a dance improvisation on rural areas. Like most of the time, I was focused to go to to rural markets where there's more people, like more concentration of people. So the idea is really to develop a contemporary language, which is to open more the view of what's happened outside our accounts. Like many people, maybe they don't know about other accounts. Like, I mean, my idea is really to connect this rural area with the outside the count, like not just only think about the inside count, but there's another place that people really exist, not just from TVs and stuff, but also through dance and movement, introducing like a different culture will be helpful to people to start to imagine a bit more and to be more creative and to improve their knowledge, even like can be outside of dance, like school or like other stuff that they can do, like other activities. And also like I started this project because I had the idea since I was trained 3 years in Belgium. And in the last year, like I just decided because I was trained just as dancer. Like we didn't have like any research. I was doing just the training. So I decided in the last year, like just myself, to develop something that I call abstract motion.
abstract motion. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like abstract movement. Which is to take modern and contemporary method to introduce it to African traditional dance and African street dance. as a way to bring the body anatomy inside of African traditional dance, which is something that I used to do now with this dance school that calls Musina from Brazil. So I do this class online with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's like to introduce this contemporary and modern analogy, which is coming a lot from the West and a bit from other part of the world inside of this rural area, just to be a bit more aware of what's happening outside this place, because most of the time people are just watching things from TVs, but
Right.
I think embodying it inside the body also can be something
Right.
different. Also, it can be helpful for like my goal really is to focus more in the new generation, but also like to open it for other people also to watch, not just the new generation, but also like to open
Right.
it for others. Yeah.
So just to give a little more context or background for people who are listening, I think what I'm hearing you talk about in particular is you're saying in the rural areas, like a lot of people's experience is very local, except
Yes.
maybe for television or something, but they're not really getting enriched or nourished by these ideas from beyond. We haven't heard your whole story yet, but obviously you're in Denmark now. You've had some opportunities to see more of the world, to experience different traditions. I forgot to mention earlier, you also studied sculpture as well as
Yeah.
modern dance. And you're saying you have a background, of course, in the traditional dance from Mozambique. And so if people go and look at, you have a GoFundMe page for this project that you're doing. And on that page, there's a video of you dancing. No worries. But I want to know, I wanted to partly ask about that video because I think it's what you were talking about when you said you would go to like supermarkets and you were dancing, because in the video you're dancing, but it's not a theater. It's like you're in the street, there's cars driving by. It looked like someone maybe had a table where they were selling something. I wasn't sure, but you go next to the table, you put something on top of your head. And I thought like, oh, he's pretending to be a table. I didn't know what you were doing, but it was like you were dancing and blending into the environment. So anyways, I know that part of what you wanted to do was bring some of these contemporary dance ideas to the young people there, and then actually have them go out into the street as you did and perform. Is that kind of what's going on? I'm just trying to bring together, so like, how are you using dance to create a dialogue between the rural experience and some of what you've learned from traveling further beyond?
Yeah, that's it. You just mentioned something. Yeah, like in most of the time that what I feel, I mean, the experience that I have from the place that I grew up, because I grew up a bit in the rural area, I feel like most people, it's not that they can see things from TVs or like internet, but they never go through the things. Like they never go to search for it because they feel it too far away from themselves. Like you feel it
Right.
and you cannot reach something that you can even go and reach it. So for me, it's a bit about this kind of this kind of hate. I can say it's a hate that we have as people that we grew up in the rural area, where that we live as a one community and we help each other, but people doesn't really spread out like this. It's not easy like everyone has to go out. Like sometimes like I have the opportunity to learn traditional dance, and from traditional dance I went to learn contemporary dance. And yeah, like I didn't know what's gonna happen, and I took the risk. I went out from my comfort zone and I went
Yeah.
to learn contemporary dance, and it was like for me, like I remember some friends were asking me, "What are you dancing? Is this a dance for crazy people? What that's it?" And I mean, today I'm here and I'm more sensitive with how life it is. I'm more sensitive about politicians. Like I can understand more things, like even without having like really studying until my PhD, because I just did all my passion, but that's only intense training. but not really in a culture. So now I have more sensibility with what's happening in the world, like
So
I
how
can
did
see
you,
possibility, and that helps a lot. But I just remember something that I was going to say before I continue with the question you give me. Like before, you were saying that I was dancing in a place where there are someone sitting in chair and selling stuff. That's it. It's a bus stop normal, and around there's people selling stuff. Like
right?
it's like you just opening like a small table, you put whatever you want, and you just selling like in a bus stop. That's also like really in a bus stop, and it's where there's more people because where like people coming to take the bus and to go to this many city to work. So it's like where people most of the time gathering in the morning, in the afternoon.
Just to understand, when you're dancing and you're saying that you're in an area and people are waiting for the bus, and then they see you dancing, and you're dancing in a way that you're bringing in these contemporary ideas. Like, how do people respond?
Yeah, usually people respond very strange with it. I mean, we are used to do our folklore dance, like our traditional dance. And when you go there and you move like this, like less people will understand what's going on. And most of the people, they're like, mostly the new generation is the one that they ask you because they've been hearing about ballet or like about modern, but they don't know exactly what is contemporary or modern. And they come to ask you this dance, the dance of crazy. Most of the time they ask you is the dance of crazy people because they move strange. But sometimes they say most of the time, like even my family, sometimes they say it. Like I mean, I still living with my parents, but they always say that it's the dance for crazy people because you dance very strange, and they're like waiting to see someone like moving very clear, like as the way they know. Like I mean, people just respond and they want to understand what's going on. They create this kind of curiosity, like what does it do? I never seen someone that moves like this. For me, it's like to open up this part where like most of the time people doesn't understand about how to say like body language. Like it's not just dancing, dancing, but it's also movement. And movement, it's a language. Like whatever thing you do every day, it's a language. Like you wake up, you take yourself, like you go to the farm, they cut the vegetables, they come up to the market, they sell it, they do a lot of stuff. This is a language, like they greeting each other, like this is a language. Something.
So for some people, the dance that you do, it's just like they think it looks crazy or that it's something new, but you're finding that for other people, it sounded like, especially the younger people, there's this curiosity that opens up, and then you're connecting. It's not just dance as performance, but you're kind of highlighting movement as a language in daily life. And then maybe if you're moving in a way that people are not used to seeing, you're even suggesting a different way to move in daily life or to experience daily life.
Yeah. Also can be just to acknowledge what you do every day. Like as much you acknowledging what you do, you can clean up more what you're doing. Because sometimes I feel like what they say, like most of our African culture, we are very strong physical, but sometimes we are not really conscious. Like we are very strong and clear physical, but we are not really theoretical conscient in what we build with our body, like with our movement. Like sometimes we are not really, there's not too much analogy or rote think in what we everyday writing. That's why I thought about bringing this contemporary and modern methodology, just to have the anatomy of our body, like which is people are flexible. They can just carry things in the head without using the hands. Like someone can just have a baby in the bag and go to the farm to pick up some vegetable and go to the market to sell is with the kids in the bag, and like this, all of the things, it's like it's a power, like it means like you have a lot of energy, and you
Right.
can long and you can use this power for even more than what you are doing. For me, it's really to open up these sites.
So when you bring in the ideas from contemporary dance and you add them to some of the ideas from traditional African dance and from the daily movement that you were just describing, that's just, using the body in daily life to accomplish things that we need to do and being very clear and strong in how you do that. What changes or what opens up? Like this, I was asking you about your history, so maybe this is a good time to go back. Like, what changed for you when you began to learn the contemporary forms?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when I started to, I will talk a bit more personal. Like I did a lot of traditional dance, and I really like the thing of in traditional dance. It was like I was dancing it professional. So sometimes the aim of being clear, like super, super clear, it doesn't mean you have to be clear. And at the same time, you don't have to dance similar. Your body doesn't have to be similar to someone else's body, but you can do the same movement.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you build your only skills, but that you can embody, we can embody the same movement.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to contemporary dance, there's no this kind of like stylish, and in traditional dance, I felt a lot of sometimes dance is putting you in a way of competition, like in traditional dance. I don't know because I was doing it like in a more professional, but I felt like people were like, I want to show that I will dance better, or like I want to show that I will perform. And that's, I had this kind of ego inside myself.
Mm.
And it's like life is a competition, or like life is just all about praying, because traditional dance most of the time it's just come for ritual and praying.
Praying,
And but for me it's not just the praying, it's even important for you, like you connect yourself with the earth, with the gods and the nature. That's really nice, but you don't need to sacrifice yourself with, like you don't need to really do it the same way that the past were doing it. And I discovered it with the contemporary and modern, and I felt that it's still your body that it's manifesting. Nothing's changed. And I started to be more conscient. Like I did things before I had to contemporary dance. I didn't like to read one thing. I
Mm.
didn't like to read books in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that, but I think I'm losing things because I lose time to go to have fun with friends, but I just went out just because I was looking for someone to speak, and I will get more problem or like more things to do with that person. I don't know, but I will be in a book reading where I can even learn more for
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really like to spend my time like every time working. Like sometimes I need the time to just like, because most of the time in a rural area, most of us, we are people that we don't work, or like unemployed, and most of the time we spend time meeting somewhere, sitting, like having some drink or like whatever, and instead of like insisting to search for something to do, you're like just in above a tree, like in the shadow, like just having a chat with friends. And I felt I was starting to be more conscious of this kind of thing, that I start to clean for myself. And I felt like I have a lot of energy and a lot of things that are happening around me that can give me opportunity, things that
Mm-hmm.
I was not conscious.
So it
And
sounds like the difference for you has something to do with your relationship as an individual to the community, and that it's like a new balance that you were able to find, something like that.
yeah. For example, I can maybe more clear and is simpler. It's like most of the time we are not conscious of the space where we are and time.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Like, I mean, I will give you example. Like in African, most of the traditional dance, we will still doing the same dance from before, and really doing this dance the same way as it have been done before, and it
Right.
will never change. That's which is very good, which I really also like to keep. But also sometimes we have to feel in which time are we, in which space are we. Because before this dance was dance, maybe just we never perform this kind of they never perform this kind of dancing in stage, like even the mask dance, they never perform the anti the past, they didn't perform it in stage, but now people, some people like they perform like the ritual dance in stage just to perform like, yeah, in different places. So how people can be conscient of this change of from before and now, what's happened now, like.
So it's like as the world changes, you want to also have some capacity to adapt along with keeping the traditions, keeping the stories, keeping what's sacred about this time and this place, but also recognizing that something, at least the time, is
Yeah,
changes us and it changes the feeling of the place and how to match that.
yeah.
Something like that. And so that might be a good moment to talk more specifically about your project, because as I understand, in a very like just speaking in terms of like what you need, you're looking to find a space, but you're going to teach a creative workshop. And I think, is it mainly for the younger people to come to participate in the workshop? And then they're going to begin to share in their community some of what they would learn with you. Am I understanding correctly?
For me, it's really first. I would love to really build the dance community in the area that I grow up. That's is the focus, and then this is the begin. What I wrote in the project and the fundraising, it's more like I would like to gathering people and material, and if possible, like even to find a space, because you must pay for these kind of things. Also, like, I mean, when I say material, it's like, I don't know, like even in by the FaceTime, like I can have like some books that talks about body, and then people can also read and see what is body, and like that together in this material. And
So
I
like there's
just
a
have
whole education you want to, a whole, like a school really that you want to create.
not really school, it's like a dance community.
The dance community. Okay. But
Yeah,
there's just, I'm understanding that you want people to read and get some, um, maybe some sense of the ideas and also the practice and create together, create something
yeah,
new.
yeah, yeah. Like for example, I have this idea of like I would love to have some books that talks a bit of anatomy, books that talks a bit about culture,
Right.
and I would love to find the space and about people that I would love to work with. It doesn't matter the age, but I really focus. I feel like it's hard sometimes to just go to someone that it's already, it's not discriminating, but it's already like 17 years old or 16 years old, and they're starting with him like this. I mean, he can even observe the work. He can even come to see the work, which can also help him. But I really would love to have like people like from this, yeah, the young until like around, I don't know, like 28, 30, but it's open. It's still open for whatever kind of age. But yeah, what I would love to really to build, it's like a community. It's a community that can work in art, like not just in dance, but I do practice dance, and my first focus will be dance, and it can change even to something else. But now it's like to build this community where which can stay, not just because of this time, but this can be a good start to motivate people to come and see and practice with me.
It's just like you want to plant a seed and then something grows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and can be someone else to carrying it on. But
Right.
I really want to like to do something that will have a big impact.
Right.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
think of the community where you grew up and where you want to make this project, like what do you imagine could change in that community if there was this creative dance, that was very present and growing and people were participating? How would that change the overall culture for that region?
Inside the community, if I think about inside of the community that I grew up first of all, because I know very well it, and it's not, I mean, I don't want to go too much far. Like I don't want to help. I don't want to do like with the big community, and I would love to start with the small. And I feel like what could change by doing this. I feel like inside of the community that I grow up, people are always the same. Like most of the time, people when they grow up, or they work in the office, they try to search to work in the office, or like most of them, like just because we are close to South Africa, we are living close to the South Africa. We are bordering with Johannesburg, South Africa.
Right.
Most of the people, when they grow up, they think about just traveling to South Africa to have they work and they come back and they build the house and that's the life and that's it. Having family and that's it. I mean, they never think about what's happening outside the world and they never try different. I mean, they've been passing for generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think I am someone that inside the community doing something like very different and very strange for some people. And sometimes they ask, you just go to the stage and then people start to clap for you and then that's it, you did your job and you come back, okay, you can buy food. And I mean, there's more than that, like there's things that people can just go to paint or like, I don't know, like even what you do as a job, like why don't you like take a bit of money and come here, or like I don't know, like come or go somewhere and help someone. It's not just only about you and your life. Like you can also help others. Like for me, it's just to show a bit of this difference. And
So
like yeah, you can see.
It sounds like you're trying to help people stretch their imagination.
Yeah, that's what I want to people to stretch. It's what I was saying. Like in the rural area, people, most of us, like the predominant, just the poor, like or the poverty, which is like if I live in the rural area, I cannot, for example, in Africa, this thing like to go to a KFC. It's like it's something very special.
Mm-hmm.
In the rural area, but people that they're already in the city, they know what is KFC and they have it close by. So if I want to go to KFC, it's like, oh, well, I have to go to KFC. So you plan it for days and you're like putting money just to go to KFC. And you don't know what is KFC, for example. They don't know like a KFC.
Are you talking about KFC, the restaurant? Right. Okay. Gotcha.
And in the rural area, we have more vegetables that are like growing up from the farm, which they are very, very useful for your health. But people like, okay, I need to put money just to go to a KFC, and to go to a KFC, it's like something very special if you live in the rural area, because we don't have KFC. Like most of the things are concentrated in the city center, and you have to take bus to go there, you have to expend money to go there, and sometimes you're like, why do you want to go there? You even have the best food here, not that thing. But like people like I want to go to the city and I want to like go to like this kind of mentality, just to break up this kind of mentality. Like you're not working just to dress well, you're not working just to go to buy good car or stuff. Like you can even develop your own community with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Very cheap. I was going to say something because for example, most of the time, if you want to talk about art, I mean, for the experience that I have in my country, it's most of the time in the what we call favela, suburb. It's a suburb.
Yeah, like favela or yeah.
Yeah, it's in their place that they are more in the edge of the city. It's like a small community that they build like this house with the small street, and they're really close to the city. It's like just the entrance of the city, and they have easy access to go to the city by foot. which is different for the rural area, which is more more outside the city.
So it's like the artist community is sort of halfway between the city and the countryside. That's where a lot of creativity happens.
Yeah. Most of the time
was that part of your experience of the favela that helped to open your imagination?
I grew up in at the sea at the part, so I used to take 1-2 hours bus to go to work. And yeah, I have the experience of doing that always. And I mean, if I go back home, I can, in my neighbor, like it's I cannot say how much the area it is, but where I live, it's like I can count people that they really focus on art. But it's quite big. It's really quite big. And in the favela, it's very easy to just go through the whole. I mean, there's a lot of things happen. Like there is a lot of things happen. There's a lot of dance group there, like even painters or stuff like that. There's a lot of people that they do very good, and I respect a lot. They do very good and a lot. And I want to bring this mentality a bit outside, you know, and a bit
it almost sounds like when you're talking about the different areas, it almost sounds like you're talking about different periods of time. Like one place is more modern and one place is more in the past, and you're trying to like bridge the gap between.
Yeah.
So what is the part that is the tradition that you learned growing up that is still important? Because I think you're also teaching traditional dance to people outside, like in Europe and elsewhere. You're teaching online on Instagram. You're showing some of the traditional dances. So what has that been like for you?
I'm starting teaching outside, like when I think I had just had like 2 classes last year, like live outside Mozambique, and now I'm doing the online class, which I will finish the 24 class. The 24 class now, and I mean it's been very hard because I'm still in the beginning of like teaching outside. Most of the time I used to teach home.
Teaching online is also difficult.
Yeah,
teaching movement online,
I mean, even in traditional, you need to sometimes play music and making people also like grooving. It's a bit even more hard, but it's been hard. It's been like a really hard experience, but I really like to do it online because I can speak more and explain. I can spend more time explaining the movement, and I can spend the whole 45 minutes teaching 2 or 3 movements where people can understand it very clear, and they can even. It's harder to do online class, but at the same time, I enjoy it a lot because you take 45 minutes explaining 2 or 3 movements, and people can have more time to see the movement, and then they can even dance it without moving, like just talking, just saying, or just imagining the movement by head. Like they can even explain the movement, how you execute the movement, and that's the goal that I used to do in a traditional dance. When I teach traditional dance, for me the focus is not just to move or to dance the dance, but to have the interest of also learning about the movement. Even if you can write about the movement, or you can explain someone else about the movement, but without executing the movement, but you can still write the movement. So that's what most of the time, it's what I'm focused on my online class now, because it's the that I'm doing until now, like it's only online class.
So what do your students say to you who they're not from Mozambique, but they're learning the traditional forms? Like, why do they want to learn this? What's the, I'm just curious, because you're talking about bringing contemporary to the rural areas of Mozambique, but now you're bringing the traditional forms from Mozambique out into the world. And I wonder what that experience is like. Like, what does that change the thinking of the people who are not from Mozambique, who are learning the traditional forms, or does it give them a new just way of looking at things?
I still keep the traditional dance, but I teach it in a different way, which is it's not only to do the movement,
Mm-hmm.
only to understand the traditional dance movement, but after that I teach the abstract motion, which I call abstract motion, which is more
Abstract
open.
motion.
So it's to use the traditional dance as the buzz, the buzz to go to things that are more complex and are more creative, like more different, which is like taking part small stuff from traditional dance to something more like a complex, like for more like improvisation or like a dance composition.
Right.
So that's why like I still use the traditional dance as it is, but I try to find a different way of teaching. Like I try to make people understand more the mechanics and the anatomy of the movement.
Right. Well, also what I imagine is, I mean, in my experience with contemporary dance, if I see a performance, maybe I'll read something and the choreographer will say, this is my idea, right? And it could be anything, really. It could be many different things. But I imagine in the traditional context, a lot of the dances maybe are like part of rite of passage, or maybe a marriage, or different. They have a reason for being that isn't necessarily with performance. And so that must be, I'm just curious, because in abstract motion, when you draw from contemporary and traditional, are you also drawing in a sense from, like, on the one hand, creativity that we can imagine anything we want, but on the other side, having something that really has a function in life, or a real connection to, you know, accomplishing something that any person needs, maybe? Is that sort of the idea?
Yeah, it's a bit that idea, but I don't know. I can also add a bit more inside of what you said. It's more a bit like, as you said, like in traditional dance, like you are dancing for a certain ceremony, and it's like maybe this is the movement that we use to dance when we go to fish, or like when we are calling the Asta to give us the raining or the water. I don't know. But from that movement, there's a lot of things happening. Like there's the vibration that the body does. Like it's also affecting anatomical. It's affecting your body, and like makes your body function very well. Like there's this kind of vibration. There's this thing that it's really connected to the ground. So for me, I go through this point that you can even go more, but in different movement. It doesn't have to be really traditional dance movement, African traditional dance movement. So I go read through these small and particular details. Like there's an exercise that I developed, which is more about how to embody different emotions, which we use a lot in African traditional dance. Like you use a lot of expression, and from that expression, you can go through different emotion, and you use different dance that comes from different situation, which is a dance for the warriors, it's a dance for happiness, or like a ceremony of wedding, or like a dance for calling the ancestor. Like like you go through these different emotions, and I also focus on this kind of thing. There's the thing that you are connected with the ground, which is vibrating, and the flow also, the foot can go into the ground and can go outside to the ground. So there's two qualities. There's, you can into the ground and you can go outside of the ground. And something that outside of the ground is like you're trying to fly. It's like jumps sometimes in ballet or like in modern dance. So for me, I teach traditional dance just to find a different way to do other things.
Yeah.
From the yes, I after tradition, because for example in the course that I was doing now online, I start like the first 10 class, those really traditional dance. And after that, I start to go more details like in each movement. And then we start to do more like more wild and dance composition where people can also compose their own movement, but through these.
But it's like you're showing different layers almost of the dance, like the layer of emotion or the relationship to the environment. It sounds like another important piece that is very different. Again, if I'm in community, if I'm in a ritual or a ceremony, compared to if I'm just on a stage, I can imagine that what can happen if like maybe I'm not totally connected to myself, I can just become, all my attention goes to the appearance. And then, you know, I want it to look a particular way. And I'm imagining just by learning these traditional dances and then slowing down and getting into the details, that it's really helping to like have a sense of just feeling all the way through, something like that.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be something that you're already doing. You understand what I mean? Like you are asking sometimes like, how does the student react to my class? For example, I teach some stuff, I show some stuff that there's sometimes like we do turnouts in traditional dance, we do movement that we do turnouts, we do jumps like sometimes like real similar like for ballet dance or like.
You said turn out, like that movement of, right?
Yeah. Do the movement that
so it's a familiar movement, but you're adding something new in the experience.
Different way of acting.
Yeah.
Maybe the way we do the turnout, maybe we do it, but in different, how I say, we use different direction, but going to the same way. You know, it's still turnout, but they're using different way of doing turnout. It's still the jump, but different way of like jumping. Still the same. Just like, I mean, I feel like using traditional dance is also another way of like improving your skills and being more creative, you know. So yeah, I have also a bit of this idea.
So you're living in Denmark, and you're teaching online. Are you also dancing or performing there, or?
I don't live in Denmark. Maybe I can explain. I started to dance in Mozambique, traditional dance, and I learned traditional dance in a municipal dance company. And then after that, I went to, I think it was 2 years later, I went to dance with the contemporary dance company in the city, like in the capital city, in the other part of the province. And from there, like I learned the contemporary dance like for 6 months. We had 6 months training inside of the company, and after 6 months, I started to do a creation with them and the first piece of contemporary dance. But afterwards, like I had some internships around Europe, around Africa. And in 2016, it was 5 years later, it's when I had did my dance formation in Brussels, in Brussels, that's in Belgium at parts. And after that, I finished the formation. I went to do the audition with this African production of Le Sac de Printemps, like the Rite of Spring from Pinabash. I don't know if you hear about that.
No.
Yeah, but there's it's the African cast, I can say. I don't know how to call it because they don't have real name, but they're trying to do one of the repertoire from Pinabash.
Oh, Pinabash.
Yeah, with African dancers. So it's like a project that gathering 14 different countries, like people coming from 14 different countries from Africa.
So that must have been really interesting, because Pinabash is this very famous modern dance choreographer, but they wanted to have traditional African dancers in the group.
Yeah, but we are doing the movement from her.
But you're doing her piece.
Yeah, like the way it is. And that's why I'm here in Denmark, because we are touring with this, and then afterwards I go back home.
Okay, so
That's
I was
something.
just confused because you're in Denmark now. But
No,
this-
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I went to start my school. I went back home and I went to do this audition like in 2019, and we are supposed to start in 2020, and we have the breakdown because of Corona, and we
Right.
restart in 2021, and now that's the reason I'm in Denmark. We are performing this, and afterwards I go back home.
Great. Okay, I'm glad I'm not so confused anymore about that. So you're eventually going to be back in Mozambique, and are you wanting to start this project? This year, next year? Is it something that you're hoping will happen soon?
Uh, this is something that because I was in Dance Web last year. I was in Dance Web last year, and I met a friend. And that friend, she encouraged me to like, do you want to do like a project that we can help to write and to co-found it somehow in Africa? And then I told her, yeah, because she's from Zimbabwe, but her father went to work in Austria, sorry, not Australia, Austria. And I said, okay, I will write. So I start to write, and we did this fundraising. So I don't have really a clear date, but wherever I can start, like even without having the real even without the man from the GoFund, like even myself, my way, like I would love to do it. Like I'm thinking about starting myself, like just finding a space and building a studio.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so for anyone listening or to this conversation, we'll put the link under the video, but you can support Vasco's project. There's a GoFundMe page. You're going to see the video of him dancing that we were talking about, where some people thought he was acting strange, but he's bringing contemporary dance to this rural area and inviting a different kind of way of thinking. And the project is also connected to, like you talked about, bringing more books into the community, just supporting local services. This is connected as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I think this is an amazing project. I mean, as you know, I just sort of saw something online and I contacted you right away because it just sounded so exciting, and it's really fun to hear about, just how your experience grew into this real exchange of different different kinds of story, different relationships to time and place and the body, and how you see creativity as being really a generator of new opportunity and the capacity for people to learn how to adapt to the world as it's changing around them.
Yeah, and yeah, that's true. Because sometimes I think it's not just someone that comes and feed you, but if you find ways to feed yourself, like there's people living like in the desert, but they find ways to find foods, like to find water, like because they adapt themselves inside of that environment.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we can just adapt ourselves inside what we are, and we can find more possibility that more than that. But most of the time now we're like waiting waiting just for the government, or like waiting for the European Union to help you, like waiting for either like, I mean, most of the time. But we can even create our own way. Like, I mean, most of the time the artist doesn't get paid, and the artist is also like creative. You create a way to like get money, to buy bread, to get transport, to pay your bills at home. So if you're an artist, you will create and build your own world. No one comes to give you the man, like that's the man, or like, I mean, this kind of mentality is also, I mean, helpful also, like even for the country, even for the community, to not just think that things are always the same way, that you just have to go and work for a boss and the boss will pay you and that's it. can do like even more than that.
Mhm. Yeah, beautiful. Well, this has been a real pleasure to talk to you and learn more about what you're doing. Is there any just final thing you would like to say for someone listening to, again, like I want to encourage people to support what you're doing, but any just final thoughts about our conversation?
I mean, what I will say is like, and yeah, I'm still like in really begin, and I'm doing this alone. At the moment, I don't have anyone that supports me, and also, yeah, I will love. I don't have like any clear date that from this date I will start to do this project and will be already planted in the community there. So like now it's still open, and yeah, my idea is really to bring it inside of the community, and maybe from that can even affect the whole world or somewhere else in the world. But really now it's like go to the point that where I'm living from, then I can grow up. And yeah, yeah, that's all, because I'm still feeling myself like I'm still in the beginning of creating and building like a art practice.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm still too young, but I feel like I can still like push myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that, how it's like you're almost imagining a little beyond what
Yeah.
you can prove is possible, but you're leaning into it. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Creating new possibilities.
yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. Maybe we could talk again if the project advances and there's more to say, further down the road. But again, this was wonderful. I want to encourage people to look up Vasco's GoFundMe page and find out more about what he's doing and support it. And I just want to thank you, man, for taking the time and talking with me today. This is wonderful.
Thank you for inviting me. Like I will still keep posting things on my Instagram. Also, I will keep you posted.
Yeah, and we can put the Instagram, we'll put all the information that you want to send me for people to get connected with you. We'll include all of that under the video.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much. Take care.